Is President Trump doing better in your eyes?
Well, I'm sure I was not the only one who was surprised. After all, this is a man who campaigned on precisely not being the policeman of the world. He's a man who campaigned on America first. He said that the people around the world were bleeding us dry, mocking us. And here he was even talking about allies. Just a week before the strike, he said in his speech, I'm not president of the world, I'm president of the United States. And just 3 days before the attack, his own Secretary of State and UN ambassador essentially said we're willing to live with Assad. The idea of getting rid of him is off the table. Given all that, it was surprising and gratifying that Trump took the measure he did, and he essentially undermined and contradicted the entire idea, the one that was sort of the main theme of his inaugural address, that we were not the policemen of the world. We were not going to be acting on behalf of others. We were only going to be looking after ourselves. And the world needs us. They needed that strike, and they needed the message. This is not going to alter the course of the war in Syria, but it was a message to Russia, a message to China, and most importantly to North Korea, that the days of walking all over the U.S. and 8 years under Obama, knowing that the U.S. will do nothing, those days are over. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to do anything in the future, but it certainly says do not count on the passivity that you've seen for the last 8 years.
I think that answer was 75 minutes long, but from what I took of it, your opinion of Donald Trump has risen.
Were you taking? Okay. Were you taking notes? I hope you were. Because when I go long, I know
I have
you
a
can
very
get confused sometimes.
Very, very sophisticated mind, and I kind of understood what you said. Not all of it, but nobody could possibly understand all of it. Now, you have a situation where I don't think Trump contradicted himself. I don't think he's making himself in America the policeman of the world. This is a war crime situation. When you commit a war crime that harkens back to pre-World War II days, and when you do something that heinous, there's only one country in the world, Charles, only one, that's us, that's going to do something about it.
But that's precisely being policeman of the world.
No, it's not. No, policeman of the world is basically regime change, occupation. You know, if a felony is committed, you go in.
A crime against humanity was committed.
Right.
It was not an attack on the U.S. It was not a threat to the United States.
But it was in a way.
We stepped in.
Poison gas is allowed to be used.
Come on, you know.
No.
You know it's not.
If poison gas is allowed to be used without punishment, it will spread. And now we have a North Korean situation, which is absolutely a danger to the United States. If they're going to do a nuke test, an underground nuke test, I mean, they're basically saying we're going to do what we want, and if someday we want to launch this nuke at somebody else, we'll do that too.
What you said about China, that it's a mystery why they're not reining in the North Koreans, it's not a mystery at all. China sees North Korea, number one, as very useful, a thorn in the side of the United States for 50 years. China's interest is to expand its influence in its periphery, meaning the Pacific Rim. It does not want us there. It's trying to drive us out. That's why it's doing all the construction on those islands. That's its objective. And we have been distracted, and we have been looking to the side.
But this draws
on account of North Korea now.
You're making two mistakes.
Years.
You're making two mistakes. Number one, China's main priority is business. They got 1.5 billion people in there, and the economy is not so good over there, okay? And this is bad for business, North Korea. Number two, they're drawing U.S. naval force in. North Korea is drawing it in. The last thing China wants. But the world order is something that China needs, because if that economy collapses in China, the government's going too.
The Chinese calculation is if they help to bring down the North Korean regime, they are going to have a democratic, westernized South Korea all the way up to the border, probably with nuclear weapons, and that is the last thing they want. They now have a buffer state that's a client state that does. It acts as a buffer between
then keep
the West,
but make them behave.
South Korea.
Make them behave. Keep your little buffer.
How do you make a great power behave? You tell me.
Who's a great power? Not North Korea. They can barely feed their people. China can slap sanctions on them in a second that bring them to their knees. You know that.
But you have told us that for 30 years, we have tried to get China to do exactly that, and we have not been able to.
I know.
And I just gave you the reasons why China is not interested in doing that.